I'm Lo Bosworth, and this is my new podcast, Low on the Go. We get out of the studio and onto my wellness walks because I am all about New York City being my gym. So along the way, my favorite friends are gonna join us. We're gonna do our arm exercises, of course, because I don't care where I do my arm exercises. Look at all the people looking at me like I'm a crazy person. This is New York City. This is Low on the Go. Come along for today's adventure.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks for coming to meet me.
Thank you for having me. Congrats on the engagement. Let's see. Oh,
thank you.
You did well.
38-year-olds can get married too, y'all.
There is no expiration date for marriage.
I know. And like you talk about all this stuff, so I'm like really excited to get into it. Okay, where are we going?
We're going to Rain's Law Room.
Okay, let's go wellness walk over there, girl.
All right, cool.
Okay, so the 7-year slump is not a real thing. Wasn't that a movie?
Maybe it was a movie. I'm not
like
super.
Back in the 50s or
Look,
60s?
I think that if you're with the right person, it just gets better.
I
The
agree.
newness wears off, but in its place, something wonderful takes place. And it's this life you've built together.
Yeah.
And I look at everything we've done over the last 7 years, and I couldn't imagine anybody else by my side.
Yeah.
And I think, what I always remember is, I talked to my parents a lot when I was going through the whole dating process in my 20s. And, I see all the time how hard it is to stay together, not only with your boyfriend, then your fiance, then your husband. And I think the thing is everybody thinks that there's something better outside of what they have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the idea of getting back onto the dating apps, brutal.
But I will
But
say,
everyone's like, the grass is always greener, but it's just not true.
and the only reason you don't break up with the wrong person is because you don't want to get on the apps.
Yeah.
Then that's not a great reason too. It's a balance. But I think the thing is everyone's like, how do you
You're
keep
right.
the spark alive? I'm like, who cares about the spark? Build something better than the spark,
That's a
Build
really
a life.
interesting perspective. Yeah. It's a tidbit in a place, so I'm glad we're here.
It's very chilly,
Rain's
but
Law
we're
Room.
here.
Okay, this was your and your husband's first date.
Yes, it was.
All right, so y'all met on Bumble.
It was a Thursday night. I was super tired from work.
I feel like Thursday night is the night out, though.
I know it is, but it was the first point in my life that year where I was like, I would love a boyfriend, but I don't need one because I was crushing it at work at the time. It was the first time I was doing really well on my own. And I'd spend all day talking at work. And you just get to the end of those days and you're like, I just want to sit in my apartment and be silent.
Yep.
And then I was like, I have to go on a first date right now. This is, and it possibly could be a bad first date. And it takes a lot of energy to go on first dates.
It does.
So I almost didn't go, but I made it a policy when I was dating never to cancel last minute on somebody because, I think that's BS. Somebody else is busy too and they took time out of their schedule to meet you. I would hate it if somebody canceled on me last minute. So I was like, let me go. And the second I saw him, I was like, oh, I'm not tired anymore.
That's funny. I love that. That's great. Well, here we are back at Rain's Law Room. I know I'm not Dave, but I'm the second best to Dave.
Second best, for sure.
These are good. These are mocktails.
I need to try. Yeah, so since I did drink in 2018, I've since quit drinking. So I'm on that mocktail train. But the thing that I love about Rain's Law Room is they can make an amazing cocktail, mocktail, whatever. And it's not just like you're ordering juice. Because when you go to bars and they don't really know how to do a mocktail, I just feel like I'm drinking like cranberry juice as a 34-year-old.
I was talking about sort of like sober curiosity with my fiance yesterday, actually, because we wouldn't classify ourselves as sober, but we've been drinking so much less the past few months. I think as our bodies get older, we're getting married, we're thinking about having kids, and so drinking is just not as much of a priority as it used to be, or not drinking, but going out is not as much as a priority as it used to be. And as I get older, oh my God, the hangovers are so real. We went out to a friend's party this weekend and I had 2.5 drinks and I really paid for it the next day. And I'm not somebody that drinks ever in between those nights out because it just doesn't cross my mind. But I am a huge fan of mocktails, and I did an egg retrieval in the past few months, and so I have not been drinking at all. And so I really enjoyed mocktails when we were going out to all of our favorite restaurants and everything. So I'm very much on the mocktail train.
Oh, and they're getting better and better at these NA options. I mean, look, a good mocktail is just as good as a good cocktail. And for me, I never actually liked the taste of alcohol. I was never a whiskey neat or anything any type of person. I
I do like a gin martini.
Yeah, see, like, I never got over the taste of alcohol. I wasn't like ever into it.
Yeah.
So, and when I would drink martinis, I would drink them extra, extra, extra dirty, like filthy. So basically, I would want olive juice with a splash of vodka in it, right?
Yeah.
So it was no sweat off of my back to give up alcohol. And now that this whole sober curious movement is kind of in play, and Gen Z is much more sober than we were as millennials at their age, all the bars are upping their mocktail game. So you don't have to drink alcohol in order to feel like you're drinking something special. I think that's what it is. It's like we want to kind of mark the weekend, or we want to commemorate something. And you don't necessarily just want to drink seltzer.
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
like a Coke. Although I do love a good regular Coke, guys. I'm sorry. If you drink Diet Coke, I don't understand you.
I have been drinking a little bit of Coca-Cola lately, and oh my gosh, it's delicious.
So good.
I rediscovered a little bit of soda, and I don't drink a lot of soda. I am a wellness girly, but I'm very firmly a balanced wellness girly.
Thank you.
And what I mean by that is that I live on all parts of the spectrum. Too much exercise, not good for you. No exercise, not good for you. Drinking too much, not good for you. Not ever having any fun, not good for you. I love Taco Bell. I eat it every once in a while. So that's what I mean by balanced wellness girly. And people expect me, as the founder of this company, to be so regimented, but I tell them all the time, that's not what wellness is about. It's about sticking to a routine that allows you to feel your best most of the time, with some allowances for fun or more strict things here and there. Like, you have to find what works for you. And so it's interesting. Like, not drinking very much, it's really working for me. I have less brain fog. I have so much more mental clarity. I have more stamina, because I also deal with like recurrent Epstein-Barr. I feel like I get flare-ups from time to time. And so being able to just say or think like, oh, I'm not like really drinking that much right now, has really helped not only my physical health, but also my mental health has improved pretty dramatically, just in terms of my emotions being more steady. Because when I was single and I was going out all the time, because I felt like I had to go out all the time in the hopes of meeting somebody, like the hangover to depression to anxiety cycle is so real. And now that I'm off that cycle, I can see it very clearly. And it's tough.
Well, that's why I quit drinking, because of the mental health aspects for me, and the anxiety the next day, and you just sort of feel like life is a little bleak. Yes, I know.
3 days.
It starts to, well, if you have a real big bender on a Saturday night, it takes you the whole work week almost to feel good again.
It does.
And you know, when I was 22, it didn't matter, but 10 years later, your body just doesn't bounce back the way it used to.
Correct.
And I don't
now
think
we
it's
need
worth
those NAD injections. Give me the NAD.
I know, right? I'm like, it just wasn't worth it. And also, like, you're engaged, I'm married, like, I live in Connecticut, you know? So it's like, there's no need to go out and get drunk when we go out to dinner with friends, when I can have just as good of a time being sober. My husband still drinks. And now I'm his official DD. It works out for everybody, you know?
Yeah, it just like doesn't matter that much. As long as it truly doesn't matter to you, it just doesn't matter that much. I know for some people that struggle with alcohol and addiction, this is a way bigger deal to cut back or to make these decisions. So I'm not trying to make it seem less important than it is for a lot of people. But if you can easily walk away from this type of behavior, it is a really great choice for your health.
Yeah, assuming you're not an alcoholic, which is very much a real disease, and like, you know, not minimalizing that. It's like, I think most people don't realize how much of a crutch alcohol is in so many social situations, because, you know, this whole idea of like, everybody's like, I have social anxiety, and it's like, yeah, but everybody does.
Everybody does.
Like,
everybody is scared
let's
to
not
talk
pathologize
to everybody.
everything. Like, everybody's a little nervous when they walk into a room.
Totally.
You know, especially everybody's a little nervous when they go onto a date. And it's like this whole liquid courage idea. It's like, I really just, and I was sober when I met my husband. I had been sober I've gone stretches where I've quit alcohol, and I know I'm lucky enough to be able to just do that because I don't have that gene in me that's been passed down, the urge.
Me neither.
But yeah, it's like, it's easy for me, so why not? But like, I just remember thinking like, I don't need this in order to enjoy life.
Yep.
And in fact, I think alcohol just reinforces how you currently feel. So if you don't feel good and you drink, well, yeah, maybe for an hour or two when you're coming up on that drunk.
Yeah.
high, sort of, you feel okay, and then you come down and you just feel even worse because it's reinforcing how you feel.
Completely agree. Okay, so what's in your mocktail?
I think it's bitters because it's very, very good.
You said yours is like earthy.
It is earthy. It's herbal.
And mine is like a citrusy, sparkly.
I love it.
Really, really good.
Taking all of my might not to chug it. That's the only problem with mocktails is you drink them way too quickly because there's no alcohol in them.
I
So
know.
like, especially if you're like a little thirsty after.
I know.
You're like, oh my God, this is so good. Let me just chug this whole thing.
I try to stick. If I'm out at a restaurant, I try to stick to 2 because then my wellness brain does kick in and I'm like, oh, sugar, carbs, all this like extra stuff just because it tastes good. I'm like, I'd rather have like a little bit of pasta or whatever than
or dessert.
3 or 4 mocktails. So
That's
it's like
true.
you have to kind of like keep it in control, but they're delicious. I am not dressed for Rain's Law Room.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's New York City. I think that's the beauty of this city is that you can come here in athleisure. You can come here in casual wear. Like, that's my favorite part about the city. It's a pick your own adventure thing. There are very few places that have a dress code, very few public places that have a dress code, right? Mm-hmm. And so you come wearing what you want, you know, and you're comfortable, and like these seats are so comfy, and it's just this beautiful, intimate environment, and
It is.
it's my favorite city in the whole world.
It is my favorite city too. But yes, I'm in my athleisure I'm in my athleisure at Rain's Law Room because I really do my wellness walks all throughout the city. And I was so excited to meet you in this part of town because this is not a part of town I come to frequently, but Bryant Park is so beautiful and people forget the charm that Bryant Park has. It has its own library, like the steps where I met you. It's a gorgeous part of New York City. But yeah, I'm gonna have to like go somewhere with really fancy athleisure as I continue the podcast so that I don't look like I'm just like running into my Pilates class.
But you can be. I mean, it's cute. I love the hokas. I love everything you've got going on right now. But yeah, Midtown is such an underrated neighborhood. And I lived here on my own prior to meeting Dave. He lived in the area too. That's why we met at this particular Rain's Law Room, because there's 2 in the city. Rain's Law Room at the William is the one that we're in, and then there's one further downtown. And I love downtown. It's sexy, it's sleek, but like there's so many great places in Midtown. And I loved living up here because it was calmer at night. It's really convenient, all the transportation around, and you know, it's got some great gems, and I think it's just getting better and better. The Brother Jimmy's, do you remember Brojays over in Murray Hill?
Yes.
That closed down recently, and it just became Leonetta, which is this insanely amazing kind of Italian restaurant that just opened a few weeks ago, and I just went last week with a friend. It is so good. And it's gorgeous. It's like a restaurant you would see in Flatiron or like Soho or whatever.
I love
and
that.
It's in the old Brojays.
Wow.
So you should go 100%. It's definitely worth paying a second visit to for me, but I love that like Midtown is having its own little revival right now.
That's so fun. Yeah, we're thinking about different neighborhoods than we've ever considered before. We're looking for something clean and quiet and just more neighborhoody. We're thinking about Brooklyn. We're open. Because right now we're in like Flatiron Union Square. We love our apartment, but it's just so busy. And it's like with everything we both have going on at work, we want to come home to more of an oasis in the city. And I know that that's hard to find in New York City, but that's our goal for like our next home.
So where in Brooklyn?
Brooklyn Heights, Cobble Hill.
Yeah.
Is kind of what we're
I love
thinking.
Brooklyn Heights. I also love Dumbo, but it's not as easy to get into the city from Dumbo because it only has a couple train lines.
Yes,
but
I know.
Brooklyn Heights is really easy because you can just take the express train, and it's gorgeous, and they're both on the water. Yeah.
Correct. There's a fly. I know, but you have to be lucky enough for a rental to come up in Brooklyn Heights. So if anyone listening to the podcast just has an off-market, like pocket listing for a great place in Brooklyn Heights, can you please DM me because that would be really fantastic.
It's amazing. Hopefully by the time this comes out, you'll have found a place, or maybe not. Maybe when
we
is
have
this?
like a long lead time. So
Okay, there we go.
no matter when you're listening to this, just let me know about your pocket listing in Brooklyn Heights. Thank you very much.
DM Lab. This is great. This is your method of finding housing in the city. We do what we can as New Yorkers, right? Wherever you can find affordable housing.
I will chase down a lead from anywhere, anybody in New York City because it is so hard to find an apartment here in this city.
It is one that you like. It's not hard to find an apartment, but one that you really like.
One that you really like is one of the most challenging things.
Wait, do you and your fiance already live together?
We live together.
Okay,
Yeah.
got
We
it.
moved in a couple months ago. We met at the end of 2023 and started dating pretty quickly. His sister introduced us. So I was in a very similar situation, I think, like where you were at when you met Dave. Single, but kind of being happy being single for the first time, because I was unhappily single for years. I was in my mid-30s. I felt really embarrassed by it. And I think a lot of women who are in their 30s and are single are embarrassed by that because society tells us that we should be ashamed of that. And I kind of hid that from my like public persona for years because like I have an Instagram, I have a business, I talk to people on Instagram and on TikTok all day long, and I was constantly pelted with questions like, are you single? Are you single? Why aren't you dating? Da, da, da. And for years I ignored them because I was just too embarrassed to address like my personal elephant in the room. Meanwhile, I was going on dates the whole time, like in the background. But finally, I started to feel comfortable. And finally, I started to feel like I could actually do this. I could actually be on my own and like be okay, like in this body, in this world, on this earth, on my own. Like, look at how far I have come as an individual person. And it was when I finally started to get comfortable and confident that, of course, Dom comes into my life because I feel like that's how it often happens. You have to get confident. You have to, find that within you and be ready and like okay on your own before you can make space for another person. Otherwise, your relationship will be imbalanced forever, right? If you're so desperate for the relationship and desperate for love, it's never going to be a balanced relationship, right? Because like they're going to come into your life and they're always going to fill that void, or you think, oh, they're filling that void that I needed so desperately to be filled, instead of just meeting you where you're at, right? And like where you are just fully yourself. And so I do Ask Me Anythings on Instagram pretty often. And somebody, of course, said, are you single? Are you single? And one day in 2023, finally, I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to answer this question. And so I just replied with a yes. And then I get a DM from a woman.
You're like, no, not that kind of single.
Correct. But it turns out it was Dom's sister. And they had seen my DMs and they live in the city and they're from New Jersey. And so they were on vacation, on family vacation together. And Dom was like, yeah, like, like I want to go out with that girl. Like, let's send her a DM. So his sister DM'd me and she's like so lovely. Of course, I looked at her profile to be like, what's going on? And she was like, trust me, we're normal, I swear. And then I said, okay, because she sent photos and all this stuff. And then we met and we fell in love and like,
wait,
now we're getting married.
Why did he have his sister DM you? Did you think he was going to have a better chance? Because
I think so, yeah.
Okay,
he was like, I can't send the DM. I can't send the DM.
He didn't want to come off creepy. So he was like, oh, if I have my sister vouch for me, even though you don't know the sister technically.
Well, I think the sisters pushed it. They were like, we should do this. Like, we want to make this happen.
Multiple sisters got involved.
Multiple sisters got involved.
This was a family affair.
It was a family affair. Yeah. And he has 3 younger sisters. And so, when they have 3 younger sisters and they are putting you out there to date, that you are a good man.
His sisters were probably your followers, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So I was like,
yes.
there's no way this man followed you before this, because it's like I love your content, but it is very female focused, which we love. My audience is like whatever, 98% female
yes,
too.
I do not have a lot of male followers.
I don't have a lot of male followers.
I have a lot of female followers that care about their body and their health and fertility and all of these things.
A lot of female followers, and the guys that do follow me are predominantly gay. So I was like, you and I kind of share a lot of, I think, the same crossover. So I was like, oh, his sisters saw you were single and they were like, she'd be a great sister-in-law.
Exactly.
And they weren't wrong.
That's exactly
trust
what
women,
happened.
Guys. Trust women.
Yes, trust women. If the sisters are saying you should date my brother, like, that's a great catch.
Exactly. That's amazing. I love that they vouched for him because as we were discussing off camera, sometimes the sisters don't vouch for the brother. Sometimes the sisters are like, my brother's crazy. Good luck.
Well, it's so interesting when it comes to online dating in that way, because you can just be meeting a total stranger who could be a total wackadoo, or you could meet your husband.
Yeah. And as somebody who has met both, I can say that it is truly a crapshoot. And my husband was also older when we met. So he had also gone through the gamut. And look, I don't know if this gets emphasized enough because it's not a very sexy topic to talk about, but stay safe, ladies, because you have no idea who's out there. And there were a couple situations I was in where I was like, this is not great. And I kind of learned early on, like, do not go back to his place after the first date. And I know after I say that, somebody's gonna be like, oh, but I hooked up with my husband on the first date and it was great. Yes, okay, that's fine. But like, if it's meant to be, you can hook up with him on the 5th or 6th date once you figure out he's not a serial killer, okay? I'm just saying that, like, as somebody who learned the hard way, that going back to a guy's place after the first date, no matter if we had dinner and everything.
It's a terrible idea.
It's a really bad idea. You're in a very vulnerable position. If somebody wanted to kill me, they would have a 100% success rate. Like, look at me, I'm 5'2" with no upper body strength.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I can run though. So
okay, I'm glad. We can do a follow-up episode, Low on the Go with Anna. We're running.
Running away from the chads. No.
We'll shoot that episode on a warmer day.
Or maybe not. Like, maybe it'll be nice to be running in the cold. Who knows,
Yeah. I mean, no. But I agree with you completely. Like, people go on the apps, some people, to prey on other people specifically. So
it's really scary. And it's like,
be careful.
Meet in a public place. Don't give them your address. Like, just be smart. You have no idea. I would say 98% of people that I met on the apps were great, but like the 2% you're like,
a little weird.
Question mark, and trust your gut. I think women have insanely strong intuitions, and the only time they're led astray is when they don't listen to them.
Yeah, I agree. All right, everybody, we are going to move on to the next segment of Low on the Go. It is myth or truth. So every episode, we're going to do myth busting with our guest. So let's jump into it, Anna. The first one, tell me if this is myth or truth, or somewhere in between.
Maybe both.
I'm a Libra sun, Aquarius rising, so there's somewhere always in between for me.
Fair.
Okay, the chase is toxic.
I think that's true.
I think
to be
it's
honest,
true too.
I think if you're too in love with the chase, you're running away from something else. What are you chasing? Because if you're chasing all the time, it means you're running away from something else.
I completely agree. So there actually is no in between on this one. And I also think, like, if you're constantly chasing or being chased, you cannot find fulfillment and contentment in just a normal day-to-day life with somebody, which is what you have to build in a successful relationship.
Yeah. You can't feel constantly like you're going to lose the person or they're going to lose you. I realize that there is a balance to be struck between, the mundaneness of everyday life and the excitement of something new. But, it's not the chase.
It's not the chase. I don't think that feeling scared that you're going to get left, like that vulnerability, like does not belong in like a real relationship.
Amen.
You want your partner to make you feel safe, not scared.
Amen.
Okay. All right. The next one. Here it is. Ghosting is the worst.
I mean, it's not great, but there's a lot of things that are worse than ghosting. Divorce, probably worse. Breakups. Like, ghosting sucks, but like, it's, if somebody ghosts you, if somebody ghosts you after 2 years, that hurts worse. We need context.
Of course.
So ghosting after 5 dates, it sucks, but you'll get over it.
Okay, well, even ghosting after 5 dates, I think, is fucked up.
It's fucked up, but, I think in order to survive, especially as a single female in one of the major cities or not in one of the major cities, okay?
Anywhere.
You've got to build resilience to the bullshit that people will inevitably enact upon you. You cannot control what they do. You can only control how you react. So if you think, oh my God, the worst thing that has happened to me is this guy ghosted me after 5 days. What's wrong with me? How could he do that to me? And you take it super personally, take a moment to mourn, but move on. It has nothing to do with you.
I agree.
And he saved you.
I also think that there's interesting levels of ghosting because I want to focus on those first few dates because after a certain number of dates, if you're not into somebody, a conversation is always required.
Right.
So I think you could just push that aside. I'm talking about the first few dates and the communication that follows because I think a lot of people live in this universe of, oh, he texted me, or, oh, he's texted me, but he hasn't asked me out again. And I think that people are not very good at being direct because they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings and they don't know how to actually communicate, hey, I'm just not that into you, in a way that is still polite and friendly. And so they kind of keep these conversations going that's kind of like a light ghost, but it is ghosting. Do you know what I mean?
Let me put it in plainer terms too. People are not good at being direct because people are selfish, and at the end of the day, all anybody cares about is how you see me. And that's why people ghost. And that's what I always strove not to do, because I was like, it's better for you to dislike me because I'm saying, hey, great meeting you. I had a little script going. I was like, I don't like you enough to go out with you. You know, I wouldn't say that, but it's like after the first date, if I'm not feeling it after a certain point, I was like, this was great meeting you. I wish you the best of luck. I don't see this moving forward. And if you don't like me because of that, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the only reason somebody would ever ghost me, or when I used to ghost when I was younger, is, oh, I don't want them to dislike me, even though I don't give a shit about them. I don't like you.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to dislike me. It's all about the ego. So if a guy can't look you in the eye or text you even and say, I'm just not interested, move on. His ego is way too fragile to be in a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I also find sometimes that like I would be direct with somebody after a date, after a little bit of beating around the bush, but then you kind of get down to it and you say, hey, like blah, blah, blah. But then they like still text you. They still try.
Oh, but then that's on them.
It's like, oh
come
my
on.
God, leave me
At
alone.
that point, it's not ghosting. At that point, you've ended communications and they're too fucking stupid to get it.
Yeah, or at that point, it starts to get creepy. So you should stop contact with that person. Our next myth or truth: people never change.
It's somewhere in between. I do not believe that the core of who somebody is changes. I don't. I believe to an extent, like, you're kind of born / raised the way you are, and you can become a better version of yourself, but who you are doesn't quite change. I know I haven't. Like, I think I've grown a lot in the last 34 years I've been alive, but who I am has always been who I am. I've just actually become more of myself. So I think most people ask this question in relation to, oh, I'm dating an asshole. Will he ever not be an asshole? No, not to you, but maybe for somebody else.
Sure.
He might be, and it's not because he changed, it's because that other person brings out a better version of him. Just like, you know, as a woman, you might meet somebody who brings out a better version of you. There were some guys that I was dating in my 20s where I was like, wow, I was batshit crazy. You know, am I the asshole? I am the asshole, right? And Dave
We've all been the asshole.
We've all been the asshole. And if you can't admit that, then you are the asshole. You're still currently the asshole, right?
Yes.
So I think, no, people don't change for the sake of why most people ask, because the only reason you ask, can someone change, is you're hoping they will. And that's never what leads to change.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think when we talk about change, between your 20s and 30s specifically, a lot of evolution happens. You become more assured of yourself. Is that even a word? You become more sure of yourself. You have a better idea of what your career is going to be, where you want to live. Do you want to have kids, not have kids, versus somebody in their 20s. So I think 25, 26, 27 can be a wildly different person from the 37-year-old version of yourself. And when I think about change, that's what I think about.
I would categorize that as growth. I don't know if I think there is a difference, and I don't think it's just semantics, because you grow as a person.
Yeah.
You know, you learn and everything. But again, do you change? I don't know. I don't think, like, I'm a little less social than I was in my 20s. Like, I'm still the same anxious hypochondriac that I was in my 20s. You know, some things, like the core of the things that I wanted in my 20s are still the things that I wanted now. You know, so many men I dated in my 20s, you know, they'd be in their late 30s and they were still fucking around and they're still not ready and they're whatever. Like, those men have grown. Like, you can't tell me, like, they've just been immature and the same since 22 and 38, but, like, who they are is a non-committal, scared, whatever, some guy who needs to go to therapy. That's who they are.
I think that, you
there's
hit
a
the nail
difference
on the
between
head.
change and growth.
Yeah, with the example of, like, the 40-year-old, never married fuckboy who's just
He's grown since he's been 22. He has not changed.
Yeah,
you can stay single and immature forever in this city too.
Okay, you're absolutely right. Okay, our next one. I have a strong POV on this. Exes can never be friends.
Mostly true.
I think, at least for me, 100% true.
Yeah, for me, 100% true.
Yeah.
Look, in certain situations, I don't think anything's 100% ever. But in some situations, if it's been a very long time, like let's say you dated in college and, just figure, like, I don't know. But very, very rarely is it true. If you have kids and you're divorced, I think there's a way I've seen it happen, where you can stay amicable and friends with your ex-husband, but like...
Yeah, I think if you like have to operate in partnership like
in partnership, yes. But like, I think at the end of the day, why do you need to be friends with your ex?
Yeah, I mean,
you weren't friends to begin with, and you don't need to be friends after. Find different friends.
Yeah.
Find a friend that you didn't fuck.
I agree. I mean, since high school, I have been a girl's girl with my gays in there also, but I have never been able to or wanted to have like these one-on-one male friendships outside of a romantic relationship because it always ended up going south. And so I just was like, generally speaking, I was like, I'm a girl's girl. I have like 10 best girlfriends and I've had them for a really long time.
100%.
And like, I don't need to be friends or like have these like close relationships with guys that are not my fiance. Like my fiance is my best friend.
Yes.
I don't need another one of you. Like this is good. I also want to talk about your incredible podcast and your rise to stardom because it has been fast, but you are so open and honest. So clearly an audience is going to love you. But how did you figure out, I want to have a podcast and I have a voice and I can communicate my POV? Because I think a lot of people feel that way, but they're too scared to get started. Like, what inspired you to start what is now like a great media career?
Lack of options, honestly. I think sometimes when you have nothing to lose, you're like, why not start an Instagram account at 30 years old and just hope for the best?
Yeah.
I went viral in 2022, but prior to that, I had been online, very online, trying publicly and failing for 2 years. So I started my Maybe Both handle on Instagram in September of 2020. And I posted a lot to mostly friends and family. And nobody really talks about this, but the most embarrassing thing when you are 30, when you're supposed to have figured it out and you don't have a career and you're trying to be an influencer, is the most embarrassing people to fail in front of are actually the people you know. It's not strangers.
That's so true. It's the group chat.
It's the group chat.
Or the group chat that you're not a part of.
Yeah. And some of the cruelest people and some of the worst judgment you will face are from the people who are supposed to be supportive. So I'll leave it at that. It was not great all the time, but there was a part of me that thought I would really love to do this and I've got nothing to lose and it doesn't cost any money, so why not try? And I just tried, and I tried different types of content and it just didn't work for 2 years. And then one day I just posted a video about self-worth and dating, and it was a huge pivot from the type of content that I was doing prior to that, and it went viral, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And it's been this amazing journey for the last 2+ years, and I'm so grateful for it. But if anything, I always want people to look at my story and be like, it's never too late. As long as, it's not even like, don't be too scared to try. I was scared shitless. It's just like, be scared and just freaking do it anyways. Because like I was scared, but I also was more scared of regret. Mm-hmm. I was scared of getting to be 50, 60 years old and being like, what would have happened if I just had swallowed my pride and ignored everybody else's opinions?
I think that's such good advice. I sit on a lot of panels and people ask me business advice questions constantly and they DM it to me. And I'm always just like, just try. It costs nothing to try.
You know what? It costs a pride. And that's the biggest price everybody pays in the beginning. And that's the price that most people aren't willing to pay. Mm. It costs the death of your ego.
That is very good insight.
Yeah.
And
so, but if you don't pay that price, you're going to pay it later on. So pay it now or pay it later on.
Yeah, in 2016 when I started Love Wellness, I was like, let's talk about vaginal health on the internet.
And I bet your family and friends were like, she could have just had a normal career and instead she's doing this.
Yeah, but hey, now we're doing A-okay.
We're doing great.
All right, we're done with our drinks. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm gonna head back out on my wellness walk. You gonna go home to Connecticut?
I am going to go home to Connecticut.
Suburbs girly, I love that.
There we go. Thank you so much for having me. This was an amazing chat.
Oh, thank you, bye girl.
Having
See you, stay warm.
That's a wrap on this episode of Low on the Go. New episodes drop every other Wednesday, so be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening or watching so that you don't miss out. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with a friend, relative, coworker, or anyone looking to prioritize wellness. I am so grateful to have you here, and I'll see you next time. Take care.